Good morning, folks. In just a minute, you're going to hear from a young woman whose story is going to move you. Let me give you an introduction from her own words first, and then some of my own. I'm a mountaineer, but I'm also a daughter, a cousin, a sister, loyal friend, college student, speaker, web designer, actress, artist, empath, dog lover, plant enthusiast, chef, writer, content developer, musician, model, analyst, overthinker, peer support lead, survivalist, adaptive athlete, organizer, leader, mediator, a half bionic charity recipient, traveler, adventurer, and daydreamer. In other words, she can do it all. What has she done? She's been selected for a prestigious award just last year. She has several firsts in climbing and a first in skydiving. She's a hunter, a fisher, an outdoors person, actress, climber, artist, writer, public speaker, a professional chef, content creator, and she will be the first in her family to graduate from university. What has she overcome? She has overcome poverty. She grew up poor, but proud. She has overcome abuse. She has overcome addiction, jail, PTSD, depression, near suicide, and the loss of limbs. And she has literally been brought back from the dead. She is also my very dearest friend. She's all of this and much, much more. But what makes her truly important is who she is. Get ready to be moved. Please welcome Mandy Horvath.
Good morning, American School of Hague. How are we doing today?
Good.
Good. I am so excited to be here today to tell my story and get to share a little bit of a message with you. Thank you for being here this morning, and thank you for listening. Thank you for giving me your attention. So, I do have a bit of a long and tiring story. But first, I want to communicate a little bit with you and have a discussion. I've learned that it is your World Language Week here at school. And yesterday you came in and you were giving your favorite word in your language. Today you came in and you gave a word that is not translatable to English from your language. My favorite word in the English language is courage. Can anybody in this audience please tell me what your translation is to your language for the word courage?
Courage.
Can you repeat that?
Courage.
Courage?
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. What language is that?
French.
French? Any others? Come on. Come on.
Courage.
Decide? And what language is that? Turkish. Very cool. I love learning. Thank you guys. So throughout this speech that I'm going to give today, I want to express to you that at any point in time you can raise your hand if you have a question for me, and I will gladly answer it. I will also open this up for questions at the end. If you have any, please be courageous and give me your questions. Thank you for the introduction this morning, Peter. To introduce myself, my name is Mandy Horvath. I am a 7-time world's first record holder and the 2022 Amelia Earhart Pioneering Achievement Award recipient. Who in this room knows of Amelia Earhart? I love that. She's one of my idols, and I look up to her so much. We're both doing things in the world that nobody else has ever done before. Amongst those world records that I have, I am the first female bilateral amputee to climb the Manitou Incline in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I am also the first female bilateral amputee to climb Pikes Peak, which is America's mountain. I am also the first female bilateral amputee to static skydive successfully without limbs. We can get through the slides a little bit later.
You wanted to do it while you were going, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Here, you tell
you
me
good?
when.
And I am also the first woman in the world to reach one of the 7 summits of the world without limbs, and I did this all by crawling. I've also been to the summit of the world's tallest natural pyramid, known as Saratusa, down in Colombia, South America. And this last fall, I was privileged and honored to climb Handy's Mountain in Colorado. I love climbing. It's something that brings me joy and passion. Public speaking, not so much, but here I am in front of you, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity. So thank you for giving me your full attention this morning and being here. So I will start out right about where you are in age now. Growing up, I grew up poor. My family didn't have much, and I grew up in a little town called Smithville, Missouri. Instead of going to the grocery store to get our food, we hunted, fished, and foraged, and I enjoyed all of the outdoor activities. I was in track, I was in FFA, I was in band, I was in choir. I did all of the things. Anything that would get me out of the house, too, because unfortunately my relationship with my parents wasn't as strong. Although I didn't have the best relationship with my parents, I did have an undeniable work ethic that led me to graduate at the age of 16. I did not experience my junior or senior year in high school, and that's something that I regret immensely. So anytime that you get to sit into a classroom or hear a speech or talk to your teacher or meet with your counselor, use that time up. This is your time. So growing up poor in Missouri, as I said, we went out hunting, fishing, and foraging. I had a very active life, but I unfortunately graduated at a young age, and I thought that I had everything figured out. I left home early, I moved out, and I moved away to a little town in Marysville, Kansas. At this time in my life, unfortunately, I disregarded a lesson that my father had tried to teach me growing up. Growing up, my dad had always told me, "You are known by the company you keep." And I didn't understand that lesson until I was 21 years old. I want you to take a look around the room today. Look at the people around you. Think about the people you surround yourself with. Think about how well you know them. And think about who would be there for you if you were in the hospital. If you couldn't walk anymore, who would bring you food? Who would text you? Who would come and play games with you? Who would hold your hair back as you cried or throw up? All of those things are really important. Who you surround yourself with is the most important thing I want you to get out of this talk today. Because it's something that I missed out on and it cost me dearly. At the young age of 21, I went out with people that I thought I could trust. I did not know them very well, and I was taken across the border to Nebraska to a little town called Steel City. It was supposed to be an innocent night out of camping. We were drinking. I had just turned 21. That night, I had 2 beers and 2 shots. I stepped outside of the bar to smoke a cigarette, and the world went black. I woke up in an ambulance, not knowing where I was, not knowing how I had gotten there, and I woke up without limbs. That night, I was struck by a locomotive. It is suspected that I was incapacitated by a date rape drug, or somebody hit me over the head and dragged me up to the train tracks and left me to die. So think again about the people that you surround yourself with and how well you know them. Could you trust them to take you home if you wanted to go home? And I also want you to think about the courage you have within yourself. Because that night, if I had had the courage to call my mom and dad and say, "Come get me," I wouldn't be in this position today. It is also for that reason that I would like to kindly, please, I would like to beg of you, anytime you go out, let your parents know where you're going to be, how long you're going to be there, who you're going to be with, and when you're going to come home. My mom had to find out from a life flight representative that I no longer had limbs. And that representative couldn't tell her anything except that I was dying. She had no idea where to go, no idea what had happened, but still made the 3-hour drive up to the hospital in Lincoln, Nebraska, where I was life-flighted. For the next year of my life, I spent in the hospital the entire time. I went through debridement surgeries every Tuesday and Friday, where they would go in, take a medical SOS pad, remove the necrotic tissue from my limbs, and then apply a product called A-cell stem cell. Unlike most amputees, I could not just be sewn up. They had nowhere to take skin grafts from me, and so I was kind of a guinea pig. This product is also the same stuff that they were using on veterans coming back from the Afghanistan war. Recovery was hard. Arguably one of the hardest things I've faced in my life. The vivacious little girl who used to go out into the woods to hunt, fish, and forage. The girl who loved to sing and dance. The girl who loved to run on the track. All of that was taken from me overnight. To add to that, I had beautiful long hair like I do now. They couldn't get the creosote out of my hair, so they had to shave my head. I lost all sense of femininity. I lost myself. I lost my courage. everything. And all the people that I surrounded myself with at that time in my life, not very many of them came to visit me in the hospital. I did it alone. I did it with my mom, and I did it with my dad. Despite the fact that we didn't get along too well. Thankfully, I survived, and I get to be here and tell my story with you today. And thankfully, I didn't give up. For a long time, I wanted to give up. Just a couple years after losing my limbs, I was sitting, well, not a couple years, about a year and a half after losing my limbs. I was sitting on the couch watching TV. I believe I was watching Prospectors. It's a popular TV show over in America where they talk about people that go up and mine in the mountains for precious gems. As I was sitting on the couch, my dad woke up, and he woke up in a really bad mood. And for whatever reason, he looked at me and he said, "Mandy, you're a fat piece of crap that's never going to amount to anything." That moment shifted my entire life in ways that I can't describe, but I'll try to explain it to you. Not long after that, I made the decision to move out to Colorado Springs, Colorado. The first night there in Colorado Springs, I was driven west on Austin Bluffs. It's a popular highway almost in Colorado Springs. It was dusk. And as we headed towards the mountains, we passed this beautiful college on the right side that was lit up. I decided that night that I was going to go to college there, and I was going to graduate from there. Moving out to Colorado and not really knowing anybody, being alone with no real healthy coping mechanisms, I fell hard into addiction, particularly alcoholism. I also fell hard into depression. In April of 2018, I begged anybody in Colorado Springs that would listen to me at bars and outings. I begged them to go and do the Manitou Incline with me. The Manitou Incline is 2,744 steps of railroad ties that lead up a cliffside of a mountain. I begged. I told anybody that would listen to me. And the general response that I got was that I was crazy, that I would be a waste of search and rescue resources, that I would die trying, and that I was ignorant for even wanting to go. That crushed me. That night, before doing the incline, I made provisions for my dogs. I took a loaded .45 up to an Eagle's Nest mountain lookout point. And I made no provisions for coming back down the mountain. I fully intended to go up the mountain and end my life somewhere where nobody would find me. When I got up to the mountain outlook point, there was a truck parked there. with a couple, and they were participating in lovely Saturday evening activities. And I didn't want to interrupt them. So I set the loaded 45 in my cup holder next to my phone, and I waited for them to leave, and as I waited, I fell asleep. The next morning I woke up and I was angry, I was livid. I was pissed that I was still alive, I was pissed that I was awake. And all I could think of is, why am I still here? What is my purpose? As I sat there crying in my vehicle, my phone went off in the cup holder. And a big surprise to me, an old man named Keith from Coach's Sports Bar there in Colorado Springs messaged me and said, "Would you still like to do the incline this morning?" If I had made a permanent decision over temporary feelings, I would not be here today. I would not have accomplished everything that I've gotten to accomplish. I would have nothing, and you wouldn't be hearing this story. That morning, after the phone went off in the cup holder, having no water, no food, no provisions, no real gear, I went straight over to the incline, and I got to climb it that day with Keith and a man named Daniel Pond, who had also messaged me that morning, shortly after Keith. Those two men climbed the incline with me, and they carried me back down. Who do you surround yourself with that would go up a mountain with you and carry you back down? Those are the people that matter. I figured if I could make it up a mile of the Manitou Incline, 2,744 railroad ties, it is no easy feat. It's where the military goes to train. I figured if I could make it up that, I could make it up all 13.5 miles that lead up Bar Trail to America's Mountain, Pikes Peak. And a month later, again, without any real gear or idea of what I was getting myself into, I gave that a shot. And I got there too. I can't tell you how many times I cried on this climb, how many times I thought I was going to have to give up. But looking back down over the mountain and seeing how far I had come was something truly special. It's something that I hope each and every one of you in here today gets to experience in your life as well. One step at a time, or in my case, one dip at a time. I made it all the way to the summit of Pikes Peak that day. I started climbing on my birthday. Before I did Pikes Peak, I was threatened with litigation and told that if I couldn't make it, this was the end of my climbing career. But I did make it. And a joke that was made on that climb was if I could do Pikes Peak, I could do Kilimanjaro too. Shortly after this climb, I met people that inspired me to become the first woman to static skydive without limbs. I landed fine. My partner did not. Static skydiving is where you jump out of a plane by yourself, not tandem. I had 3 hours of training. It takes courage to do things that you've never done before, to experience things in their full breadth. And I hope that each and every one of you in this room today has enough courage to go and follow your dreams as I have. After skydiving, I really set my intentions. Well, I climbed Pikes Peak again, just because I liked the views. I was able to take a fellow veteran named Travis Strong, who was also a bilateral amputee, up the mountain with me. I led an expedition of full-grown men that had never been to a mountain summit, up the mountain, safely. And I had no real idea what I was doing. It was all just experience at that point. So, in 2021, I spent a year training, and I was privileged to travel over to Tanzania, Africa, to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Mount Kilimanjaro is one of the 8 wonders of the world, one of the tallest 8, and I am the first female bilateral amputee to climb all 50 miles by crawling, one dip at a time. And I had help. Julius John White picked me up so that I wouldn't get attacked by ants. It's the little things you don't really think of that would be a bother to you. Perhaps one of the most incredible things that I've done in my life and will get the opportunity to do. Africa was very special for me. Is there anybody in the room that's from Africa? Which part? South Africa? Very cool. Thank you for sharing. After climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, I was exhausted, of course. But I was also privileged to meet so many new people and get a really good look at different cultures. It was my first time venturing out of the United States. It was the first time I had been on an international flight. And that took courage. After climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, I was awarded the Amelia Earhart Pioneering Achievement Award in 2022. She's become one of my biggest idols, and I'm happy to share about that at any point I can. Whenever you go out at the age of 21 or younger, and you get to explore the world, you get to explore new experiences, I want you to think about your safety. Please let your parents know where you're at. Let somebody know where you're at. the very harsh realization, I can't say the word. Not a lot of you in this room probably realize this, but many of you here won't make it to 30. I've lost 30 people that were close to me, high school friends, just in the last 4 years. Many of them to addiction, and an unfortunate number to suicide. Please don't ever make a permanent decision over temporary feelings. What is meant for you will arrive right on time. It might be tomorrow, it might be the next day, it might be next week, it might be next year. Hold on for those glimmers, because you have a purpose. And I'm so excited, so very, very excited that part of my purpose here today is to talk to you. I'm not going to continue to keep telling you my story, but what I want to do in this last 10 minutes that I have is I want to open this up for questions that you might have. I ask you to be courageous, and if there's anything on your mind, I'm happy to answer your questions. When you leave this room today, I want you to leave with just a few things. Always let somebody know where you're going, how long you're going to be there, who you're going to be with, and what time you'll be home. Even if it's not your parents, make it a best friend. Make it your best friend's parents. I don't care. Not everybody in this world has great intentions. There are some very dark and twisted people in this world. 2, you're known by the company you keep. Make sure that the people you surround yourself with are people that are worthwhile. And 3, have courage. Have the courage to say the right thing, to do the right thing, to stand up at the right time, or speak out in my case. And have courage to follow your dreams. That's all I've got for you guys today. Do I have any questions? If you'll just raise your hand, I'll call right out on you.
How's your relationship with your parents now?
Thank you for asking. She asked how my relationship is with my parents now. My mom's on speed dial. My dad did not tell me that I was a piece of crap and that I was not going to amount to anything with no reason behind it. What my dad saw in front of him that day scared him. He saw a very loving and ambitious little girl suddenly give up on everything, and he knew not what to do. So the best way he knew to inspire me or really set a fire under me was to say what he said, and it worked. My relationship with my mom and my dad is much stronger these days. I think that everybody goes through a period of time in their life where they think they know better than their parents. I know I did. And your parents have good things to say to you, good things to remind you of, because they have experience and they know. you ever think that you know everything, you're doing it wrong. At least I was, in my experience. Thank you for your question. Yeah.
What are your goals for the future?
Well, after I leave here today, I will be going over to climb a bell tower in Delft. That's something that I want to experience. I'm very excited for that. Thank you.
Times where you wanted to give up when you're hurting, whether that's on a hike or just in your daily life, how are you able to push your body past what your mind tells you to do?
One more step. Just one more step. At every time that I felt like I couldn't keep going, I amazed myself even. I just put my head down and I kept working. If you look at the mountain and you're frustrated and you're trying to get up this mountain, looking at its summit is not going to be what gets you to the summit. It's going to be focusing on the trek there and the journey there. So at any time where I was feeling really low, just one more day, just one more step, and surrounding myself with people that could carry me when I could not carry myself was very important. Thank you for the question. Are there any others today?
Are you neurodivergent?
Am I neurodivergent? Thank you for that question. Not diagnosed, but I can absolutely tell you that I have ADHD. Growing up, my teachers weren't pulling away my phone. They were pulling away my books. I would walk into a classroom and there was a special table just for Mandy to set her books upon, because otherwise I wouldn't listen to anything. So, yes, thank you for your question. Yes?
When you talked about surrounding yourself with a company that you want to keep, what qualities do you look for in people that you want to surround yourself with?
What qualities do I look for in people that I want to surround myself with? People that are genuine. People that are authentic. People that will be there for you. People that will literally carry you when you cannot carry yourself. People that will visit you and make sure that you're okay, even in the darkest of times. And people that are honest about who they are and what they stand for. People that have strong morals and ethics. Those are the people I want to surround myself with. Thank you for your question. Who else? I think we had one down in here before I called on her. Is it still there? No?
Where do you see yourself in 5, 10 years?
Oh my gosh. Where do I see myself in 5 to 10 years? Well, I can tell you very honestly that 5 years ago, if you would have told me that I'd be sitting on a stage in the Netherlands speaking to a school of people about all the things that I've been through and accomplished, I would have told you that you're crazy. I have no idea where I'm going to be in 5 to 10 years, but I know that I'm going to enjoy the journey there. And yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to enjoy the journey there. Thanks for your question. Yes?
Now that you've disproven everyone does every life, do you feel empowered?
Absolutely. Now that I have disproven everybody who has doubted me, do I feel empowered? Absolutely. Quietly, though, humbly. I have done things that I look back on, and, well, for instance, every time I go back to Colorado Springs and I see Pikes Peak, I think to myself, what were you thinking? How did you do that? And I want to continue to amaze myself by just going a day at a time, a step at a time, and empowering myself that way. Thank you for your question. Any others? Yes.
How long did it take you to climb Kilimanjaro?
Thank you. It took me 6 days with a rest day, so technically 5 days. To give you an idea of how difficult that was for me, able-bodied people walk up Kilimanjaro in 6 days. So I kept the pace of an able-bodied person, and it was about 7 miles a day. It was very intense. Thank you for your question. Yeah.
Do you have any sponsors on your clients?
Do I have any sponsors on my clients? Yes, I am a sponsored athlete. The only way that I would have been able to do any of this is with sponsors. I'm not rich. I did not grow up rich. I've been fortunate to be sponsored by Oakley, 511, Cole, the American Legion there in Colorado Springs. So everything that I've done was thanks to sponsors that helped me get there and complete those climbs. Thank you for your question.
Laura, you have a question?
Do you have any tips for people who are going to get studying abroad or very far away from everybody we know?
Can you repeat that just a little bit louder for me?
Do you have any tips for people who are going abroad or studying abroad and very far away from people they know and trust?
Do I have any tips for people that are traveling abroad that, what kind of tips?
How do you say what to do there?
How to be safe, absolutely. In most every country that you go to, you can find mace, you can find personal alarms. Something that I do now is I have an app called Life 360 on my phone. My mother, my boyfriend, and people that are important to me all know where I'm at all times. Anytime that I leave, I let people know where I'm going, how long I'm going to be gone, who I'm going to be with, and what time I'll be back. Yeah, thank you for that question. Yes?
In Mr. Roy's intro, he said that you're a model, so who and for what have you modeled for?
Thank you for asking. I am a model. Normally, I would be speaking in my prosthesis, which is pretty cool. I have half bionic robotic limbs, and I'm very grateful for those because they still allow me to walk and model and do the things that I thought I would never get the opportunity to do again. I've modeled for a few different people, a few different companies, but my favorite experience was probably modeling for 50 Legs charity. The 50 Legs charity allows me or helps me with hotel, airfare, and other expenses related to my prosthetics that I wouldn't otherwise be able to cover. And so they invited me to model for a magazine there in Florida for bikers, which was pretty cool for me. Both of my parents are truck drivers, but most of the most of my childhood, my parents worked for the Kansas City Harley-Davidson manufacturing plant there in Kansas City before it closed. And so that was very big in my life, and I was really grateful for that opportunity. Thank you for your question.
We'll take one more question down front.
How did you start feeling better again in your femininity, or how did you get back your self-esteem?
That's a great question. How did I start to get my femininity back and my self-esteem and my confidence? By doing things. By being courageous and putting on my legs and sitting in front of a camera and really processing that it's going to be different for me, and it always will be, but it doesn't have to be a new foreign land. So thank you for your question. Just, again, one day at a time, one experience at a time. Thank you. Any others?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Once you had that incident and lost your sense of trust, how did you regain it and trust people to take you up the mountain?
I think that, and I say this very honestly, one of my favorite accomplishments isn't one that gives me a title. It was learning how to trust people again. And to be honest with you, it's still rough at times. My brain has neural pathways now that it didn't have before because of all the trauma. And so it's hard for me, even today, in my intimate relationships or friendships even, to trust people, and I get through that daily still, just by recognizing that not everybody is bad. Not everybody is out to hurt me. Not everybody would betray my trust that way. And so for that, I guess a lot of time and a lot of doing. A lot of meeting new people, a lot of experience, and learning that the few bad people in my life should not deserve or get the satisfaction of ruining potentially amazing friendships and intimate relationships for the rest of my life. He's not worth that. He's not worth that. So thank you for your question.
Folks, you have been absolutely wonderful, attentive, respectful, and amazing. I hope this was something that was of value to you. One more time, Mandy Horvath.